Who is Pete Sassafras? I bet even the most loyal Adventure Time fans would barely remember this poor character who was a driving force in the plot of Season 5's episode 25 titled Candy Streets. The episode is aptly titled, revolving around Lumpy Space Princess, who is the definition of being for the streets, pun intended. With LSP's slut escapades to be examined in a later video, we will focus hence on the real crimes that were committed in the Candy Streets episode. Candy Streets begins with Finn and Jake playing with some cats in Princess Bubblegum's palace. Serenity and a joyful mood are quickly aborted when Lumpy Space Princess comes charging through the door. This destruction of property does not bother Bubblegum, so will likely not count as a crime. The crimes that will be explored in this episode are looked at through the lens of them being committed in the United States. Penalties and fines will hence be made in dollars even if the Candy Kingdom is far removed from United States geography or reality. The United States is the ideal model of a country to be used in this video because of the global notoriety and transparency in the legal process. We only have to wait 12 seconds after Lumpy Space Princess busts down the door before our first official crime is committed by none other than Goody Two-Shoes, Princess Bubblegum. She commits the crime of practicing medicine without a medical license. Holding a large syringe, she gets Finn and Jake to pin LSP down before administering a shot of what looks like an antidepressant. A person practices medicine whenever they attempt to diagnose a patient, treat medical conditions, prescribe medications or treatments, or perform surgery. PB here was clearly trying to treat LSP's anxiety but did so without a license. According to all law, a common sentence for impersonating a doctor in the United States is 1 to 8 years in prison. This would at least be a felony considering that Bubblegum likely produced the medicine herself, with no regulation from an overseeing health board. Bubblegum would likely get at least a year in jail if the court was convinced it was a felony. The next crime was the destruction of property, done by both Finn and Jake. Our two heroes smashed through a window of the hotel, once in the middle of the episode and once at the end of it. The destruction of property with intent to damage person, property, or injure is a Class 1 misdemeanor in the United States. Both Finn and Jake would be facing up to 5 years in jail and/or $10,000 in fines. Let's say for simplicity that both windows cost less than $1,000, then Finn and Jake would get a maximum fine of $1,000 or spend up to a year in jail. In this case, I believe Finn and Jake would spend at least 6 months in jail unless they were tried in New York or California, where they would likely get no time in the slammer for this offense. After gathering some intel on the potential perpetrator of a crime on LSP, Jake and Finn go to a drugstore to further investigate. Here, they impersonate a police officer to get the clerk to spill more information. Acting as a police officer to obtain personal, private, or any non-state interests is a crime in most, if not all, countries in the world. Finn and Jake have played a role in the Candy Kingdom's militia but were never given the role of the police. By flashing a fake badge, Finn and Jake committed a misdemeanor that carries a jail sentence for up to 5 years. While chasing after the crime suspect, Finn and Jake evaded ticket barriers and were apprehended by Candy Kingdom police for attempting to board a train without a ticket. Instead of being charged with another misdemeanor, this with jail time of up to 120 days, the Candy Kingdom police lick Jake to confirm whether he is a police officer. This bizarre licking ritual confirmed Jake as a police officer, although we all know he is not. All this craziness could be summed up in the dum-dum juice most Candy Kingdom citizens are made out of. Clearly, the actual police here were high on it. Next, our heroes will be charged with battery as Jake actually physically harms the suspect, Pete Sassafras. If our heroes were seen to be first-time offenders, they would spend up to 30 days in jail. Pete Sassafras is then arrested under the threat of a firearm and taken to a Candy Kingdom jail. One of the very few who committed no crime in this episode, Pete is put behind bars and denied a lawyer. Jake even goes on to impersonate a lawyer, declaring welcome to the next 25 years of your life. Though impersonating a lawyer carries a 1 to 5 year charge if deemed a felony, it is nothing next to the average time of felony rape in the United States. Depending on the age of the pizza deliverer that LSP sexually assaulted, she could face from 1 year to life in prison. Looking at the mess in the room and the fact that LSP is a powerful supernatural being, I believe she would at least see 5 years in prison for forcing herself on someone else. The episode concludes on a cliffhanger. Finn and Jake again destroy property, but it remains to be known if they immediately went to the Candy Kingdom prison to free Pete. It is an unfulfilling end given that Pete Sassafras was innocent in the first place, and only goes to show that if righteous deeds are done with haste and often using criminal means, they can hurt the very innocents the law seeks to protect. Pete Sassafras deserved to have a fair trial and hearing, and even if he were not to win his case, being innocent until proven guilty is and should be the standard every lawful society abides by.